Hello and welcome to the Evolving HubSpot podcast by Hubble Digital, a podcast where we explore the topics that matter the most in the world of HubSpot. I'm Matthew Creswick, and in this episode, I'm joined by Jeffrey DeAnna, the head of North America Solutions Architect team here at Hubble Digital. Jeff, welcome to the podcast. Maybe you could kick us off by telling us a little bit about you, your background, and I guess what you do at Hubble Digital.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Matt. Happy to be here. My role here at Hubble is to be a solutions architect. It means solving problems that may be straightforward, may be very complex, but no matter what, we have to, at the end of the day, solve for the customer. And I am in charge of making sure that we have a fully architected solution so that HubSpot can fulfill the needs of whatever the client has in store for their business processes, whether that means multi-system integrations or just a simple HubSpot setup. Prior to Hubble, I was a CRM developer for Dynamics, and I worked in that CRM. So there's vast differences between the two CRMs. Working in Dynamics is a drastically different experience than HubSpot because HubSpot gives you more of a seamless experience that's more user friendly, whereas Dynamics is more of like the old school. Here's a system, you can build it however you want, and there's a lot of configurations that go into that. But I was a CRM developer for Dynamics for 4 years, and before that, I was in the business analyst realm for natural gas and for oil. So I like to think of myself as moving in the right direction because I started off with oil and then natural gas and then to solar. But solar is where I became a Dynamics admin. And there was a lot of things in Dynamics that you could do out of the box, but in order to make the system work for users, we needed to use a lot of customization for using JavaScript on the front end of the forms, what the users are seeing in the actual system. And once I got into HubSpot, I realized, there's a reason why it's simple. And comparing the two is like comparing apples and oranges in the same bucket. So the challenges that I face at using HubSpot is that, do I have the same level of customization that I had in Dynamics? No. But can I provide the user the same experience in HubSpot? Yes. So I think that what we're going to talk about today is going to illustrate how that difference is portrayed.
Awesome. And I guess, Jeff, for our listeners, whereabouts, you've also got an American accent. Whereabouts are you based?
So I don't have a fancy accent, but I am from New Jersey and I work from home because Hubble allows you to work from wherever you want. And that just so happens to be in my lovely basement, as you can see.
Cool, good stuff. Well, as you referenced, Jeff, I guess we're going to talk about HubSpot kind of CRM customization today. A pretty niche topic, shall we say? I touched on it last week on the podcast with Darren Smith, our CEO, where we were talking around kind of the product updates following inbounds and kind of what they meant for people using HubSpot out there. So we're going to look at kind of how some new things they've announced that inbound can kind of affect the use of HubSpot, how people build out their processes and operations in the tool, specifically around the UI customization, right? So it's how people actually, are in an object within HubSpot, how they use the tool, how they interact with the tool. I guess we're going to get into some detail here, but maybe before we get into the detail, as somebody who has So you worked heavily in Dynamics for a few years and then kind of moved over to working and helping companies with HubSpot predominantly. Um, if you could kind of set the scene for us in terms of the ability, to customize in HubSpot a little bit further, if you were to compare it to kind of Dynamics and Salesforce, where does HubSpot sit in the kind of spectrum of CRM customization?
So as far as customization goes, when using HubSpot, everything is very simple. There's the activity bar, which takes up your main screen. It's the center pane. You have three panes. You have your left sidebar, which has all the properties that you would fill out on a specific object. The center pane has all your activities like emails, notes, meetings, all the activities that are related to the object at hand, whether it be a contact, deal, or whatever. And then the right hand side is going to tell you where your associations lie. So it's a very simple one screen to understand, but the comparison is Dynamics, where they more or less give you a form and you have to build out that form and make it look however you want it to look, and you're just adding components left and right. It's more or less building a web page. And the the thing about Dynamics is that when you have a user in Dynamics, you need to have that user to be able to understand the system before they're able to do their job. Whereas in HubSpot, your job is very apparent and you're able to understand what you need to do by looking at the one screen that's in front of you. And um, more or less, there's a lot of customization that you can put into Dynamics, and you can make it look and feel good to the user. But HubSpot does that out of the box, and we we prefer to use something that's always going to be familiar to a user rather than something that needs to be bespoke and built to the user specifications in order to train multitudes of different people. So you prefer to go to the thing that's easy to use, easy to understand, feels familiar, and it's intuitive. And that's where I think the the HubSpot um, ecosystem has an advantage over Dynamics, is because anyone can look at it and know how to use it just by looking at the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've heard HubSpot described multiple times in the past as kind of the familiarity and ease of use of the Apple ecosystem, right? And how a iPhone is incredibly easy to use. It's pretty easy to pick up. Everyone knows how to use it. Everyone knows how to navigate it. How have you so I guess I think what you're saying here is that obviously HubSpot, especially over the last few years, has been a system that within general you can pick up, use. You don't have to do a ton of customization in order to fit it with your processes and operation and things. But it sounds like what we're talking about today is the ability to be able to customize it a little bit more. And has that, in my mind, that's kind of come as alongside how HubSpot has gone slightly more at market, slightly more complex implementations. I guess, have you seen that in terms of the requirement, shall we say, to allow companies to customize it a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid um, point that needs to be considered as far as when you're considering different CRMs. Is that Dynamics? Yes, it has the custom. You can configure it to your needs, but you never know if there's going to be a high level of adaptation and if users are actually going to use it properly. And you need to put in a lot of rules and take a lot of variations, a lot of iterations of the interface in order to get that sort of adoption rate. But whereas in HubSpot, you know that the adoption is going to be very standard, and um, because it's so simple, you're going to face a lot of limitations as far as what you can customize in the properties, in the security, and any CRM has a general set of rules, right, for the users. So as far as HubSpot goes, you have a general set of rules for your teams and partitioning of what records can we see, what fields can we edit, and Dynamics has the same exact thing, but Dynamics goes a level further in saying that you can partition a lot of very specific things. And that becomes a very hard thing to manage because you're using the same interface to manage not only the holistic level of what your business users are trying to access and accomplish in the system, whereas HubSpot says, here's a basic level, this is what you can access and accomplish. So the first question that is going to come to anyone's mind is, well, hey, what if we have a department that needs to see certain records, and you you don't want it to impact the rest of the system? In Dynamics, you have to go through a set of menus. You have to probably go through like 7 or 8 screens just to check off the boxes and say you have access to this and that. Whereas HubSpot, you just say, here's your access. You can see these records, you can edit them, you can create them, you can delete them. If it's your team, if it's your own record, or you can see everything. It makes it simpler for someone to understand as a business expert. So if you have someone who's a business expert and you want them to facilitate what the business is actually doing, you really want to make that easy for them to manage, and you don't want to have to rely on admin. So HubSpot really empowers the business users to manage their own parts of the business, whereas Dynamics, you would need to submit a request, have an admin, put it forward, test it, make sure it's good, and then you go forward. So where is the where is the where's the gap in all of this? Um, HubSpot does not have the ability out of the box to do certain functions like partitioning certain fields, conditionally populating certain fields, restricting people from doing things. But Dynamics, you have to go through tons and tons of admin to get that functionality in place.
Yeah. Okay. And so speaking specifically around the kind of recent updates or kind of, I guess allowances that HubSpot now allow you to make on that kind of UI customization. We saw it inbound, kind of their main release around using the React beta now in order to be able to customize that UI place. Maybe you could give out like what has changed in your mind, Jeff, over the last few weeks and the ability to customize HubSpot a little bit more.
So this is absolutely huge for bridging the gap between HubSpot and more systematic CRMs, because really what React means, it's a JavaScript library, and HubSpot's used it to create a framework of components that enable us to customize the experience of a CRM card. And the CRM card is something that's native to HubSpot. It's what's on the center of your screen. It is the first thing that someone looks at when they open up a record. When I open up a contact, I see a CRM card. In Dynamics, you have to scroll down. You have to find where that contact lives. You have to find different menus. In HubSpot, it's right in front of your face. And what React does is it brings the look and feel of HubSpot into a customizable CRM card where your wildest dreams are now possible, and it's all going to be the same user-friendly interface that you're used to within HubSpot. So any developer with React experience can seamlessly start creating a rapid prototype of an interface, and you can be able to user acceptance testing. You can be able to start that process right away. And rapid prototype, does this look okay to you? Does this actually facilitate what you're doing on a day-to-day basis? And it's right in the center of your screen. Instead of having to go to a developer and go through weeks of development changes and back and forth, it's a very streamlined process of putting in this actual module so that a user can be able to see the changes in real time and test them and see if it actually helps them do their job.
Awesome. Okay, and so I think what you're highlighting here is that essentially people can now develop within that kind of central pillar of a HubSpot object, right? So whether it's a contact, whether it's a company, whether it's a deal, within that central piece, people can now develop within there. It still looks like the HubSpot interface. It still is easy to use, but it kind of opens up, as you described, a world of opportunities and processes and operations and automations within HubSpot itself, but also within kind of integrating and connecting with other platforms. Um, that if we were to go through a few use cases, and I think I've heard the volume of use cases described is literally endless here. But if we were to pick a few, I guess I've got a few noted down. First of all, regarding security enhancement. So how does this allow HubSpot to become a more secure tool when used in large organizations?
So, take for instance the example of a deal or an opportunity in Dynamics. A deal in HubSpot says, here are the main things that you need to look at. Here's the history of the contact. Here's the emails that have been associated to this deal. Here are the notes that are associated to the deal, and here are the related records. Alongside of that, you have the option to switch over to another tab while remaining in that deal and keeping that valuable information on the left and right sidebar. But in the middle pane, you'd be able to bring up something like an accounting functionality. And you would have a button that says, show me all of the invoices for this customer. In Dynamics, you would have to do the same thing, but you would have to go to a different screen. You would have to click on a link. It would bring you to a separate window, reload your page. You might want to refer back to the deal or the opportunity in Dynamics while you're looking at those invoices because it's a separate object. And then you can start to interact with those invoices. Those invoices will be controlled by out of the box permissions, which are in a series of menus which an admin would need to manage. But now with React and HubSpot, you can open up a deal. You can see the relevant deal information that's important to you. You can see the associated records that are important to you. And you can click on the center pane and just open up an entire accounting functionality, but only if you are privileged to see that functionality. And that is as easy as setting up as a configuration table, which someone like Hubble would do for you. And all you need to do is add the username and the user ID to that table, and now they have access. The business admin is now in charge of who has access to that without having to go through the steps of submitting a request to the technology admin and having that approved, having them go through 7 menus to check off, does this person have access? It doesn't matter, because in the center pane, that person will now see that accounting functionality that allows them to see the invoices and allows them to interact with those invoices, whether it be in HubSpot or through different systems. And that can all be controlled very simply with one field being updated by a user who is the one in charge of making those decisions.
Amazing. So you kind of highlighted here a couple of different benefits, right? One being that from a security perspective, you can ultimately kind of dissect HubSpot a lot more. You know, provide kind of views and employees and users of the tool can ultimately have access to different things or not have access to different things based on who they are. And I think that kind of being able to segment HubSpot a lot more, as we referenced, kind of is a big customization requirement to very large companies with lots of different divisions, lots of different teams, lots of different regions. From I guess from a kind of conditional behavior point of view, and what I mean here is, you know, inherently or historically within HubSpot, the ability to do things like if I have a drop down and I have 4 options, and if I choose 1, 2, 3, or 4, something different happens, or I'm presented with a different piece of information, or if I'm presented with a different form field. Um, as I understand correctly, the conditional formatting piece is another piece that you can now build in, or is another example of something you can build into this new development area.
Absolutely, and it's not just restricted to conditional formatting. It's also it also expands to actionable buttons. It expands to calendars. There's a whole slew of different use cases that are enabled by this React module. So picture your if everyone is working off of the deal and you have multiple different departments doing different business processes, all you need to do is enable a button for each of those different departments, manage the security in one table, which is easy to use for a business admin. And once you enable those buttons, you can have things like a module that says, here are your service ticketing and SLA monitoring pipelines. This is your trade show floor. You can have actual pictures where you can interact with actual buttons on the screen that says, here I'm actually reserving a table, like at a wedding. Field service management, like installation checklists, where if you have field service and you want to send out an installer to go and install a roof per se, you need to fill out a checklist. Easily accessible. If I'm a roofer, I just need to go into HubSpot, click on the installation checklist button, and I'm going to see everything that I need to see right on the deal. I'm not going to need to navigate to 9 different tabs. I'm not going to need to open any other windows. It's all going to be right there in front of me, because my role is going to partition what access I need to specific modules that it's going to make my job more efficient. And seeing all these things from a user perspective is extremely powerful, because everyone navigates to the same place. And the React module is controlled in the sense that you're only showing the functionality that that person needs to see in order to get their job accomplished. And that can expand, like the examples that I mentioned. It can also expand to CPQ. It can expand to inventory, shipping, and supply chain management, submitting purchase orders. Um, a big one is submitting timesheets. Like, who wants to go into a deal? Who wants to search for a deal and then log their time on a child record in a separate window on a separate screen? No, you can just do that on the deal. You click on the center pane and you say, submit my timesheet for today, and you have a nice clean interface of, here's how many hours I've logged for this, and you can put in details. You can make this as vast or as simple as you want. And the developers have control of how you want that to be portrayed to the user to accommodate for the maximum adoption.
All right, and you great examples of I guess how you can especially interact with other HubSpot objects, right? So if you're in a particular HubSpot object and you're looking to see information or interact or submit information, read information from other HubSpot objects or data that's in the HubSpot platform. Jeff, maybe you can talk around the ability to also see that information, be it reading stuff, be it submitting information, but that interacting with kind of third party platforms that sit outside of HubSpot, right? Because ultimately, a company using HubSpot is probably going to have upwards of five, six, seven, 10 other platforms kind of plugged into HubSpot that has to interact with it.
The beauty of React modules is that it can read data from any related object. So you can pull information from the contact. You can pull information from child records, like transactional records. You can pull information like line items, like products. If you have multiple products that you want to show on a deal, you can open up that deal and you can say, here are all the products that I have signed for, the customer has signed for. Now I want to order them as a purchase order. So I can now see all of the line items that that customer has signed for, and I can pick the quantity that I want to send downstream to a third-party system, for instance, QuickBooks. And all you need to do from a user perspective is put in the amounts that you're ordering and click the submit button. And the React module can have the ability to send that information downstream to a third party system seamlessly. And then, if the third party system allows, you can also have a response and a webhook for when that information is updated and you say the inventory is now received. It can update HubSpot directly, and you can have a simple view on your screen that says, here are all the purchase orders that I've made over the last week. Here's the status of each of them. I can go through that view and say, here's the status of each. But the real power is the React module is not just limited to what data is within HubSpot, and it's not limited to sending data downstream to third-party systems. It's a module in the sense that you can also act as a traditional CRM card would, where you can read data from third-party systems in real time. So when the React module loads and you click on the center pane and you say, I want to open up my purchase orders, you'll be able to see the inventory on hand. So you know what the outlook is from a holistic point of view, and say, do I need to order this much? No, because we have enough inventory. Or you can say, yes, I do need to order that much. You're reading information from third parties. You're allowing the user to input it on one screen and submit it, and it goes downstream to the third party system. which also does have an impact on licenses if you need to have a service account that goes downstream. So instead of having 10 users in QuickBooks just so that they can create purchase orders, you might just need one user controlled by the permissions that we enable in HubSpot. And those users can submit purchase orders without needing a QuickBooks license.
Awesome. Saving companies money out there as well, Jeff. I like it. Okay, awesome. Well, I guess to bring this slightly to a close and a wrap, Jeff. Maybe one kind of final question is around. Obviously, this is a relatively new area of development and kind of part of HubSpot. They've provided the ability to develop and customize a little bit more. Do you have any examples yet of kind of how you're looking to, I guess, implement this kind of thing in any clients or anything like that? Whereas previously you've had to have a slightly different workaround. Appreciate you might not be able to go into too much detail, but I guess I'm asking how whether you've put this into practice as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've had an example of an entire inventory management system, third party, that was managing all of all of the in and outs of the inventory and supply chain management. And we said, you know what, with this React functionality, we can actually replicate everything that this third party is doing. So let's just build it in HubSpot so that we can create a seamless environment for a user to interact with the data that they need to interact with and fulfill the needs of the business. And we don't if we can recreate things that third party systems are doing in a module that's right on the interface of HubSpot, it's infinitely valuable because otherwise you're opening up multiple screens, multiple windows. You're constantly having the struggle of moving data manually between two systems, and being able to actually see all that data in HubSpot and interact with it and actually move the process forward without having to leave one screen is a huge benefit as far as user adoption. And it, it that's a huge point for any large company, any small company, any company at all, because you don't want to spend your whole time training. And that's the difference between HubSpot using React and Dynamics, is that Dynamics, you're going to need to retrain, have admin privileges granted. HubSpot, it's all seamless. You can build these modules to your liking, and your imagination is the endpoint. Like there is no limitation of what you can build in React and make the user's experience in HubSpot even better than it already is. HubSpot is already great, and this just takes it to a whole nother level where enterprise clients can benefit from the ease of use, the training aspect, and just the robustness of it. You don't want to be connecting APIs in different systems with data that you're unsure of. You can build those limitations in the React module so that you can't make mistakes if it's built correctly. And you can prompt the user that there are errors and you can't submit something. So it's so beneficial to be able to build this out correctly so that users are not able to make mistakes and everything just is robust and seamless, easy to use. And that's how that just follows the HubSpot methodology.
Fantastic. I'm sold, Jeff. Um, that brings us to a wrap. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. For listeners out there, thank you for listening. Please do like and subscribe and all of the rest if you're enjoying the podcast so far. If there's any kind of further, I guess, questions, like I say, this is a relatively new environment within HubSpot. If there is any questions around the React and customization and development tool, you can always reach out to Hubble. We've got some content on the website around examples of companies and examples, use cases of how you can use the customization. But as I said, thank you for listening. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate it.